in a place like this with its four-season base. And it wasn't like this in Hawaii, right? You know, it was almost the same every day, to a fault almost. But similarly, in an area like this where there's changes throughout the year, this time of year, in late May and early June, like I'm talking about, you get these cool blooms of flowers, and that's just a different dynamic than what we were going to see later in the year. You know, I mean, I don't know, late July, August, we'll have a bunch of blackberries in bloom or something. And all through the rest of the year, there's different things. But right now, we get a bunch of Oregon grape, those bright, cool yellow flowers that are spread across the hillsides as you're driving out to the coast. Or, like I was mentioning, the foxglove and the wildflowers that are growing. That's all pretty cool. So that's what I was up to, trying to find out at the wildlife refuge. This time of year, there's really not much wildlife out there, as maybe you'd figure. But I think during this area, this season of the summer, a lot of the animals that would naturally be there have headed off for a while. I don't know if it's up to the mountains. I think there's a good-sized herd of elk that go in and out of the wildlife refuge there. I've seen them a few times. I think maybe I talked about it before on this podcast, but like last winter I'd seen them a couple times. But I think I was thinking specifically maybe sometime in November. I think that's near their rut. Though I'm not really sure the dynamics of how elk work. But yeah, I definitely saw a few bulls. You can see, their big racks kind of walking through this open field of a wildlife refuge, and then yeah, a bunch of the does that were around. Oh, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, maybe on one of these podcasts, that we were out at the wildlife refuge. Well, yeah, so strike what I said, almost. I mean, I'm kidding, but we were out at a further south section of the same wildlife refuge, looking across an open field at dusk, and we saw, well, I'm not sure what it was. It was an elk. It was an elk for sure. But we saw a lone elk maybe 200 yards out across an open field, and it just kind of cruised a little zigzag as it kind of like went through this field, sort of scoping and bending down to chew. And we watched it for a while, and then we ended up taking off after 45 minutes or something. But yeah, we were just up there hanging out and having like a picnic or something, yeah, hanging out. And yeah, this elk popped up and cruised around out there. So I guess that was, what was that, mid-May or so when we last saw that. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, just that lone elk. So he's probably headed up to the hills, I guess, by the time that it's going to get pretty hot out here. I bet the people around there sort of know their natural migrations a little bit better. But it's cool. Yeah, you can go out there in the wintertime, see elk. You can see a bunch of birds. I saw a coyote out there. That was fun. But yeah, there's a bunch of animals, a bunch of natural stuff, a bunch of places you can hike around. It's cool that we have a couple areas like that are designated as wilderness, or what, it's not a wilderness area, it's a wildlife refuge. I think there's another one north of here. Well, there's a bunch in Oregon. Really, if you pull up a map and you look for wildlife refuges, you'll probably find one near and about the area that you live. There's really a lot outside the Portland area. There's a lot. I think along the I-84 Columbia River corridor. There's a lot, I think, down this way into the Willamette Valley and along the coast, but there's really almost nothing. I was surprised. There's almost none in southern Oregon, and there's a few, but it's pretty dispersed out in eastern Oregon. It's really, I think, just considered everything in eastern Oregon's public lands, or like what is BLM or a national.